Hello everyone, my name is Brian Thielen, German teacher here, and I'm excited to present to you today on critical thinking for tech tools. Since we began the Bring Your Own Device program in our school, we've had a lot of amazing opportunities to integrate technology into our lessons and our classes. But really we need to employ critical thinking to determine when to use technology and what the proper technology is for a certain learning outcome that we're aiming for. I think Bill Ferriter, who is a teacher and blogs on an education blog, said it very well. Technology is a tool, not a learning outcome. Technology is not our end, it's a means to get to an end. So he gave this example on this infographic that basically said, we don't want our students just making a PowerPoint and calling that technology. No, we want them making a PowerPoint so that they can then publish that onto the web to inform our community about a certain topic or issue. That publishing and getting their ideas out to other people, that's the real use of technology. Not all technology is created equally. Just because it is technology, it does not mean it fits your classroom needs. So how are we going to decide what technology is right for us? Let's employ critical thinking. Mark John Snyder, who is an adjunct professor and the CEO of a consulting firm, had these steps for critical thinking. Ideals: identify the problem, define the context, enumerate the options, analyze the options, list reasons explicitly, and self-correct. So let's apply this to our technology question. First, we need to identify the problem. Does a certain piece of technology or software help achieve our learning outcome? If the answer is no, then you probably don't need that technology. But if your answer is yes, let's move to the next step. Let's define the context. Here are some things to think about. What will be the main use of the technology or software? Does it make getting to the learning outcome easier? Is it necessary for the learning outcome? For certain classes, I'm thinking of a chemistry lab right now. They need certain technology to get to their learning outcome when they're doing labs. So certain pieces of technology are absolutely vital. Other pieces of technology really help a lot, but they're not always necessary. So let's look at all of our options. Let's enumerate the options. Let's list them out. Usually a piece of technology or software is only one option amongst many. I think in a math class, speaking of is there a process without the technology that the students need to master, I'm thinking in math class, how often the teacher said, you can't use your calculator to solve this equation. It was much easier to do with the calculator, but they really wanted us to learn the process behind that equation. So we had to use paper and pencil. So sometimes technology actually impedes a learning outcome. Another question is, if you see a piece of technology or software that you really like, look for an option that's free. There are tons of options out there on both the Apple App Store and the Android App Store. So search around, do a simple Google search, type in the name of the software and do free option. See if other similar pieces of software or technology is out there. Next, we're going to analyze the options. Tina Barskian is a writer, and she writes for an education blog. And she quoted Karen Cater from an ISTE conference on choosing the right technology for the classroom. So Karen had some really great tips. One of them is know what your goal is. What do you want this piece of technology or software to accomplish? Another question, what is the technology designed for? Is it designed for classroom use? Or is it designed for a professional lab? Another question, what do you want it to do? So, are you looking for software to help you manage your classroom? To help your students review? To help organize a unit or help your students organize their notes? Another great question that Karen brought up is, will it change your role in the classroom? This is not necessarily a bad thing as a teacher. If you have a teacher-centered classroom where all you're doing are lecturing and your students are taking notes, that's not a great thing. But if you introduce a piece of technology or software where all of a sudden it's students that are now, they come up with their own questions about a topic, they then investigate those questions, they're doing research, they're coming up with their own ideas, and all of a sudden, instead of you being the lecturer, now you're just another tool amongst many in the classroom. That's actually a great thing. Another thing, check reviews online. Google the software or the technology, add the word review into your Google search, and see what other people are saying about it. They might say it's a great thing, it's a great resource. They might say stay as far away from this resource as possible. Karen also mentioned professional development. If a piece of technology or software is complicated, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a good piece of technology or software, but it might mean that you need professional development. So you need to consider, does your school have the resources, the time and the money to employ that professional development to make this technology useful? If they don't, it's going to be too complicated to probably learn on your own. So you might want to steer away from that or seek out professional development opportunities outside of your school. Another very key thing that Karen says is, does it make life easier? If this piece of technology or software ends up taking more of your time or your students' time and makes a process really difficult, you don't need it and you should not get it. Look at the other things. Will all your options, if you have multiple options, meet your goals? Will a certain option meet this goal in a better way? Maybe you have all good options, but a certain option, a certain piece of software or technology meets this goal more efficiently. And then the last question, are all of the options realistically available to obtain? You have to think of cost, you have to think of ease of use, you have to think of time into learning that new technology or software. So are they all realistic? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. This is where we are going to list our reasons explicitly. Write out the pro and con table. I used to do this all the time when trying to make a decision between two good things. If you have two good options, I can guarantee you that they're going to offer different pros and different cons from each other. So write them out and compare. Base these arguments from the collected data that you have obtained. Next, self-correct. Maybe you began this process with a bias towards a certain outcome. Maybe you saw a piece of technology and you thought, this is so cool, I need it for my classroom. But after researching, after thinking about it, after looking at the cost and the time, maybe it's not such a good idea. Don't let your bias interfere with the data you've collected. Use that data. It should be unbiased data, and listen to it. Lastly, it's decision time. Make a decision based on the collected data. Now, I know many of you are a little bit uncomfortable with new technology. You're not confident in yourselves. If it is best to obtain the new technology for you and your class, don't be afraid to take that plunge. We as a faculty should be doing this together. We can answer each other's questions. We can bounce ideas and options off of each other. We should be collaborating in this. The other thing is, your students are incredibly technologically savvy. Don't be afraid to obtain that new technology, play with it for a couple days yourself, and then introduce it to your students. See what ideas they have. See what strategies they have. They might already know this piece of technology from another class, so they might be able to help you out with that. Thank you all for listening to this presentation. Don't forget to critically think about your technology.